Hello everyone, this is section 8.2 which is about inverse. So basically a function will be given. Um so this function will be given and we need to find the inverse of the given function. All right, and this is how we write the inverse. So to find the inverse we are always going to follow these four steps. All right, always. But before we start following these four steps, we need to know if the given function is one-to-one or not. So the first we need to find is one-to-one. All right. So let's see an example. Um, let's say a function is given f of x is equals to 2x plus 1. All right. So we need to find the inverse of this function. All right. So following these four steps, we need to find the inverse of the function. But like I said, we need to find whether the given function is one-to-one or not. So the idea of the one-to-one, let me show here. So the idea of the one-to-one is, let's say a graph is given. And if we want to find if this graph is one-to-one or not, then we need to do a horizontal line test. All right. Horizontal line test. All right, so horizontal line test is basically we're going to make a horizontal line that goes through this graph, and if we find the horizontal line passes this graph more than once, then we say it is not one-to-one. All right, since this horizontal line crosses the graph here, here, which is twice, so in this case we say this function is not one-to-one function. All right, but with our example here, well, we know this is a linear equation because this x has the power of 1. All right, so whenever x has the power of 1, we say it's a linear function, and linear function is always a straight line, something like this. All right, if there is a 2 on the power, we say uh, a quadratic equation. So quadratic equation has always like this one, yeah, like this is a graph of the quadratic function, right? Now in this case we have a straight line. Now to check if this is a one-to-one function, we can just basically just make a horizontal line, and we see that this horizontal line crosses this graph just once, right here. So this is one-to-one function. So the inverse exists if the given function is one-to-one. All right, so the first thing, like I said here, so the first thing we have to look is whether the given function is one-to-one or not. So first thing we need to follow is this: find whether the given function is one-to-one or not, and then we can follow all these four steps. All right, so let's start following these steps then. Okay, so the first one is f of x to y. So basically change f of x to y. All right, so the first one is change f of x to y. So change this f of x to y. So we get y is equals to 2x plus 1. All right, and the second one is interchange y, basically y, and it's basically y and x. All right, so basically we have to change interchange y and x. So then we get this y, we get y to x and x to y. All right, and the third one is solve y in terms of x. right? So basically here what we're going to do is interchange or solve y in terms of x, or basically isolate y, or basically we just want y on one side and everything else on the other side. So then we can just move this 1 to other side, or subtract 1 on both sides, so we get x minus 1 is equals to 2y, right? And then divide 2 on both sides, so y is equals to x minus 1 over 2. All right, so we get y in terms of x, right? Because x we have there. So y in terms of x. So now the last one is now change y to inverse, f inverse of x. This one right here. So then, so the last one, change y. So y to f inverse of x is equals to x minus 1 over 2. All right, so to find the inverse, this is the process every time. All right, so you always have to follow these 4 steps, and before you start following these 4 steps, you need to know whether the given function is one-to-one or not. If it is one-to-one, then you can follow these 4 steps. If it is not one-to-one, then we can say that the inverse doesn't exist. All right, clear? Now let's say, let's use different color. Let's say f of x and g of x are given. So let's say if 2 functions are given, all right, f of x and g of x are given, and now we need to find whether these 2 functions are inverses or not. All right, so if one function is, if just one function is given, then we can follow 4 steps to find the inverse if one function is given. All right, but if 2 functions are given, and if we need to know whether these 2 functions are inverse or not, all right, if 2 functions are given and we need to find if 2 functions are inverse or not, then the idea here is it's the previous chapter. So we need to find f of g of x, which is also, you can write it like this, right? So g of x is going to go inside the big parenthesis. So if this value is x, so whatever the function is, if 2 functions are given, and if you find f of g of x and the value at the end you get x, then well, we have another condition as well, and another one is g of f of x and this one is also x. So if you get x for both f of g of x and g of f of x, then in this case we can say that these two are inverses. So if we get this conditions, then we can say these 2 functions are inverses. All right, so yeah, that's the idea of this chapter. All right, so make sure you do your homework, Alex homework on time, and I'll see you on next section. Thank you.